After the first week of college football, a lot of Auburn fans looking ahead of the schedule and saying, hey, 5-0 seems pretty realistic. Is that true? We talk about it on today's Locked On Auburn.
Well, Zach, I actually just finished crushing some chicken farm, and I am freaking ready to rock and roll.
You are Locked On Auburn, your daily podcast on the Auburn Tigers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, welcome on into Locked On Auburn, your daily Auburn Tigers podcast. I'm your host, Zac Blackerby, and thank you so much for making Locked On Auburn your first listen every single day. Happy Charlie Tuesday to all of you who celebrate, as Auburn message board legend Charlie 5 joins us as he does every single Tuesday. Happy football season to you, Charlie 5. And look, you and I were talking about this before we clicked record. Everybody's talking about what they saw with LSU, whatever in the world they put on the field against Florida State. Same with Penn State against Purdue on that Thursday night game. And then Missouri, I don't think as many people watch Missouri go up against La Tech, but a lot of people are saying, hey, this path to 5-0, it seems way more realistic now than a week ago. You buying that?
I personally don't feel any different than after watching this game. I'll worry more about watching the Auburn game than the others, because everybody has different things that happen on the first game of the year. So the nothing I saw necessarily in the Auburn game makes me feel like we're gonna have a better chance or worse chance. The game kind of played out exactly how I thought it would. I said 55-14. It was 42-16 or 17 or whatever. And, had it not been the rain delay and whatnot, it probably would have, we probably would have had a chance to score a few more points, keep that momentum going. So,
sure.
When I step back and look at it, I feel like we're going to have, this is going to be the matchup that's going to decide a lot of games for Auburn moving forward. And that is our offensive line rushing the ball against opposing teams' rushing defenses. And if we can run the ball, we can do things in the passing game. We can do things in the passing game. What bothers me is if that were to get stalled out, kind of like we saw last year when we got to run the ball. Yeah. How do we manufacture offense? And then if you look at I'm not really counting San Jose State. They're terrible. We should just absolutely steamroll them. But then you got Penn State, Missouri, and LSU. And right. Penn State only, I think it was, they allowed Purdue 70 yards on 23 carries. So I can't do around 3 yards a carry. And then you had Missouri only allowed 11 rushing yards on 22 attempts against Louisiana Tech. And then LSU only allowed 130 yards on 38 carries against Florida State. Now, if you take the quarterback runs, which was a majority of the rushing offense for Florida State, their running backs got nothing. So, what do we take? Is there anything to take from that, what do you think about that? Is that even worth talking about?
I think it's worth monitoring. I think we all agree for Auburn's offense to have the most upside, Tank Bigsby and Jarquez Hunter need to be the story of the offense, not whoever's at quarterback. It looks like it'll be right. TJ Finley in a starting role, but even when Robby Ashford comes in, and maybe that's where Robby does help, where he comes in and could be a gadget guy, or, some people are going to call it the Wildcat. I don't think that's entirely accurate, but whatever it may be, when they have packages for Robby that come in and give you a little bit of a spark, but that doesn't really help you from like a play action standpoint. Cause then when TJ comes back in, it's like, okay, you're not like taking into account any of the behavior or production that Robby was able to have. So,
right.
But, as far as moving the chains and stuff, I think you get some stuff there, but I think it's worth monitoring. Yeah. It's week one. So many things can change. So many teams are going to change from week 1 to week 2. That's where you see the biggest difference. And Brian Harsin talked about it at his press conference, where it's like, you don't really know who you are until week 4 or 5, which is when Auburn will be hosting LSU at Jordan-Hare Stadium. And I just think at that point, Charlie 5, Auburn's going to start to feel itself as a downhill running team. And then the level of competition is going to go up, and we're going to have to see, can Auburn run against the big boys?
Yeah. I mean, and And what's hard for me, the reticence that I have is that it's a lot of the same faces, and we're just 1 year more year down the road. And then this week, I've always felt, and I said on the show, what do you want to see? I want to see us push the ball down the field. And we did a couple of times. TJ hit one down the field. Robby hit one down the field. We did push it, but it was, it was like 55 or 60% run to 45 to 50% pass. And I was kind of hoping it'd be just a little bit the other way, because just take this for example for basketball. Like basketball team, when we were over slaughtering those Israeli children the first 2 games, I totally get us. Like I'm cool with us scoring inside. Like I know we can score inside. I know we can get in transition. I know we can play defense. Can we hit threes? Because that's what helps us. That's what's going to help us when things go wrong. Whatever. We got that guy that can hit the big shot. So we can run the ball. Like we got great backs, and we can bounce it outside on teams like Mercer. But can you get those tough yards when you have to? Can you average 4+ yards a carry against a Missouri who's shut down a rushing offense when you're playing every down to stop the pass? So
right.
that should tell you a little bit of what they got going with their front four. I don't know. I'm just that to me is the key. It's weird. It's still the exact same thing as it is when it was under Gus. If you could run the ball, things could happen. And I guess that's just, for the most part, that's just football in general. But it always seems, especially when we're still sort of protecting the quarterbacks in the passing game. If what happens when they have to throw? What happens when we saw TJ getting 3rd and long? What happens when we get in that in conference play? Did we ever see Robby in a 3rd and long? We saw him in 4th and long, and he made kind of a weird decision on a scramble. But other than that, he looked pretty good. What happens? What happens when Jarquez gets can't get a lot going, or Tank maybe has some trouble getting some stuff going? That still remains to be seen, I guess.
And I think we all wanted to see more out of the wide receivers, but that's just not really the way the direction of the game went. Only 3 receivers caught passes? Is that right? VAR caught 4, Shed caught 4, and then Tarvaris Dawson caught 1. And then the rest were either backs or tight ends.
And it seemed like, Javaris was the only one that could really get separate, like the big time separation to make a play. The few incomplete passes that we had, they were sort of Drake. Like I can think of a back shoulder
stuff. I think Shed created separation. Now, if you want to argue it was more the scheme and the patterns that freed him up, I'm totally cool with that. But he did get space.
Sure. So we got to, but you got to have that. I was really hoping more out of Dawson. We heard a lot about Dawson, and you hear a lot about Camden Brown as well. And he got 6 snaps, no targets. But I've always really liked Javaris Johnson. I really think he could be, even though he's diminutive in stature, he's explosive, and he proved that. And I think he proved it last year too, that he could be a down the field guy. So. Again, first week, the game played out almost exactly like I expected. So what happens next week? How do you build off of it? And TJ looks like he's going to be the guy. And I don't know that I necessarily disagree with the move. I know it's exciting to watch Robby. It's exciting to think about the different dynamic that he brings. But again, I still go back to this, and I said this a couple of weeks ago. Brian Harsin understands the significance and the importance of winning this year. Yeah, he has to understand. I know he does. So whoever goes out there first, he feels like gives him the best chance to build something, to win at Penn State, which I think it could be one of the biggest games of Brian Harsin's career in 2 weeks.
Right. Yeah. And then Javaris Johnson climbing up the depth chart now, the official starter.
Yes.
That H wide receiver over Tarvaris Dawson. All right, Charlie 5, let's talk about the offensive line and maybe some concerns there moving forward in just a moment right here on Locked On Auburn. Hey, I want to tell you guys about the most fun way to watch college football, and it's by playing Underdog Fantasy. They have these pick'em games. It's super simple. All you have to do is look for your favorite team or your favorite players or any kind of quarterback or running back that you think has a chance to pop off. And then you predict that you're given a stat and you say, hey, I think the passing yards for so-and-so for TJ Finley will be higher than whatever underdog says or lower. And you string together 2 or 3 of those. And obviously the more times or the more players that you pick, odds are your multiplier is going to be up a ton. I put a pick 'em in for like 4 different quarterback stats this past weekend, and I only wagered like $10 and I won 100. So you can pick between 2 to 5 players for your pick 'em slip. And if you get all your picks right, you'll take home that cold hard cash. So download the free Underdog Fantasy app. And your first deposit up to $100, you can get double. Deposit $100, you get a free $100, and that is Underdog Fantasy, promo code Locked On. That is promo code Locked On when you sign up for Underdog Fantasy. Charlie 5, our guest, you and I hung out earlier today at Barbaritos, had great lunch, and they've got all kinds of stuff, rice bowls, burritos, nachos, whatever it is. Also on Mondays, which you and I will record every Monday at 3:00 there. So come by, hang out with us, talk some football, but kids eat free on Mondays. And also for catering, this is a busy time of year for catering, whether football parties or tailgates. If you call the store to schedule some catering, mention the show, mention Locked On Auburn, and they'll knock off 15%, which is pretty solid.
You get a little guac queso combo mixture. That's phenomenal.
What you were doing to that guac was borderline inappropriate, but it is what it is. It is what it is.
I was deep off in it.
So coming up, well, we'll hear from John Samuel Shanker, our weekly visit with him. Where are you with this offensive line? I was blown away. I was super, super impressed with Austin Troxell.
Yeah.
I didn't really notice Killian Zaire.
Could be a good thing.
Live or in the rewatch, which, yeah, you take that from your left tackle. The interior offensive line, I don't understand why it's not better than it is. It's early. They've got plenty of time to improve, but I just thought as a whole it would be better than it was a year ago.
Yeah, and Tate Johnson, believe it or not, he was the top graded, I think, center from Pro Football Focus in the whole SEC. I think it is the way he graded out. I saw somebody tweet that out early. Great first start. I think it was more of an assignment thing. I don't think he for the most part, good snaps. He's quick. He's a lot quicker. But man, I felt like when we tried to run behind either guard, we had a lot of trouble. Jarquez Hunter, he's more of your inside guy. He had the long touchdown run, but if you take that away, he had like 7 carries for 15 yards, something like that. So like he was just not getting much. We were not getting much push.
Sure.
There, a lot of our stuff, a lot of the the big runs that we had were popping like outside. Like you think about the option play that we ran, the jet sweep, and then the option getting Tank on the outside.
A lot of the big runs, Troxell buried a guy for that to happen.
Exactly. And then the hold, that was a long run, and I'm still, you could call it, you couldn't call it. I couldn't really see a great replay, but when I was there watching it live, nothing really jumped out at me. Yeah. Tank's long touchdown run, he had a guy in the hole like immediately, like it's and he just unbelievably, that one of the best cuts I think I've ever seen live. Like
so smooth
in the hole too, not like in open field. It was like literally right behind, like right past the line of scrimmage. But he got the most after he bounced it outside, because that's just seems to where we, that seems to be our strength now, the perimeter, which is great against teams like Mercer. I just wonder, when everybody knows that and that's on film, what happens. Yeah, the right guard and left guard, they're rotated a bunch. It's like they couldn't really figure out what we wanted to do.
Which is good, right? I mean, use these games against Mercer and San Jose State to play around and figure out exactly who you want up front. But yeah, the fact that they haven't settled that yet is interesting. And I mean, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I feel like we did talk about this and agreed. The whole interior offensive line was where I felt like there were less questions.
Oh, I know. I felt like exactly.
Yeah, I mean, with Brandon Council coming back, we heard nothing but great things about Cam Stutz. I think Keandre Jones, I mean, the NFL world was paying attention to Keandre Jones as a potential top draft in this class. And so
even when guys like Brendan Coffey went in at left tackle, he got a false start at one point in time. But like, other than that, I think he played pretty well. It's crazy. We always talked about how we were thin at tackle and we were really deep in the interior, but the interior struggled. The interior line struggled. And that could have been a scheme thing Mercer was doing that is just different, which, possibly gave us the openings on the outside. I'm not that high level of being able to take film down and break it down and figure it out. But for whatever reason, right guard, left guard, we struggled. We struggled getting push with those guys. And
we've talked about it at length. The past two shows that we've done, I don't really want to harp on it now, but like we've talked about how TJ Finley's 2 picks, the problems there seem super fixable. The problem with the interior offensive line
is that
fixable? Like, I don't know how fixable that is. And I mean, you can try to find a few answers with the rotation, which it looks like that's what they're trying to do. But like, I don't know how you fix that. Like Tate Johnson, you got to think more experience will help him. But like Keandre Jones and Brandon Council, like those guys are who they are at this point. I mean, especially Council, he's been in college for forever.
Yeah, and then Keandre sort of had. I mean, there was possibly even some NFL chatter this year. And it's game one. It wasn't a good game one. Let's just leave it. I mean, that's really all you can say for the interior. It was woefully I've heard like sort of like surprising, like it's kind of a shock to a lot of people that they expected that to be more of a strength, and they just played that basically that bad. So got time to fix it, got another tune-up game, and then you go into Penn State, and Penn State played Purdue's not really a run-oriented team, but anytime you hold somebody to around 3 yards a carry or less, that's that means you can play, you can handle the run a little bit. So even when you're on the road, so they were on the road, as I believe Penn State was on the road as well. So we'll just that you got to figure something out. But I'm really interested to see how that plays out, and then snaps, how they play out with the quarterbacks moving forward, because those 2 picks were scary, but at the same time, what do we really have enough to make a 100% call on Robby throwing the ball? Because the running's fun, but when you got to be a quarterback, can you be a quarterback? Not sure. I think that may be the first time he's ever thrown passes in an actual collegiate game. So he definitely needs more.
He's played in an actual collegiate game.
Yeah, exactly. So a lot to build off of. Again, I don't feel any way. Go ahead.
Well, real quick before we wrap this segment up, Harsin has been very consistent right after the game, and then at his press conference yesterday, talking about how TJ's a starter. TJ's a starter. That's his messaging over and over and over again. That's telling, right? I mean, he believes in TJ.
He believes in. There's something that he's seen at practice, and the way that TJ leads, the way that people buy in around him, that he feels like he can win with. That's all I care about. If he feels like he can win with it, I'm going to get behind it.
I'm there with you, man. Charlie 5, how can people find you, hear you, support you, all that good stuff?
Absolutely. Find me on Twitter, _Charlie_5, in the Auburn Locked On Auburn Discord every single day, auburnlive.com, the corner message board, or Monday, Wednesday, Friday on the Dab Bod Golf Pod.
That is Charlie 5. Hey, we're going to hear from John Samuel Shanker in just a moment. We talk about his touchdown. We talk about the quarterback battle. We talk about a ton of things. But first, I got to tell you about our friends at Alumni Hall. Auburn fans, are you game ready? When you want to show off your Auburn pride, Alumni Hall is your ultimate shopping experience. They have the greatest selection of Auburn gear and just general Auburn stuff all over the place. They've got your casual wear. They've got your game day wear. They've got your, if you want to be a little bit more fancy, My daughter thinks Aubrey lives there because we got her this plush stuffed Aubrey that she takes everywhere. It's really precious. But check it out. Alumni Hall, they've got 2 for $38 tees. You can mix and match. Champion, comfort colors, all sorts of shirts, as well as sideline apparel and coaches polos. They've got a ton. So make sure you're game ready. Visit our locations in Auburn or Opelika or in Huntsville or online at alumnihall.com. And be sure to check out the promo code is Locked On. Alumni Hall, where Tiger fans shop. Our weekly visits with Auburn tight end John Samuel Shanker, brought to you by the Crawford Willis Group at eXp Realty. John Samuel Shanker, congrats on the week 1 win. How's it feel?
It was good. It's always great to get back out and hit somebody else for a change. And I thought we played well. Obviously, game 1, there's going to be a lot of little hiccups and things like that, just kind of banging the rust off. And the game's a little bit faster than in practice and things like that. But I thought we played well, and we handled the rain and lightning well. And we came out after that, scored right after. So I think we're in a good spot heading into week 2.
Yeah, that first play after the rain delay, it's like Mercer wasn't quite ready, but Tank absolutely was ready to go.
Yeah, that was huge for us to come out and do that. Just kind of lifted a weight off our shoulders, coming out, and we were wanting to attack. We knew we had the ball in a good field position, so that was huge for us after the rain delay.
Sure. So, what do you think was the biggest, lesson learned in this week 1 win?
Biggest lesson, probably just that what we've done is working. Like we're not just doing things just to do them. Like everything we do matters in practice and things like that. I think some guys saw that. They're young. They see how a game works and how practice can change things that you do. And I think we handled that well. And so it'll be good. Normally week 2 is a big jump for teams. You learn a lot from week 1 and into week 2. So this will be a big week for us.
So you're on the field a ton. When you look at who's at quarterback, and clearly there was a design to have some rotation there early before Robby kind of took most of the snaps in the second half there. What's that like, both as a blocker and as a receiver, when TJ's there versus when Robby's there? I mean, they do different things, obviously. What's that like?
For the most part, most of it's the same. I would say, obviously, when Robby's in, there's a bigger chance of the play being extended with his scrambling and things like that. So you're a little more aware when Robby's in of, okay, if this isn't open, like there's a chance for a scramble, or I might need to block for him downfield and things like that. But for the most part, it's the same. I mean, the huddle operation, all that's the same. It's just, extending plays. And with TJ, he's not going to be as mobile. So there's certain things like in your route running, you need to be a little more crisp when he's in there, because, you might not be able to scramble as long and drag out plays.
Is the playbook the same? I mean, as far as how the play calling goes, is all of that the same, or does that vary too?
Yeah, I'll say for the most part it's the same. Now with Robby, obviously there can be more read option and things like that, just with his speed. But I don't think that changes much for Coach Keesaw and Coach Harsh in that realm. But I mean, obviously when Robby's in, they're more open to more read options and things like that.
So when you guys installed the package where Robby's at receiver and TJ was at quarterback, I imagine that was a pretty fun day of practice.
Yeah, that was pretty early in camp too. We want to get a lot of reps at that before the season started. But yeah, that's an awesome play. I don't know where they came up with it, but it actually, we haven't really worked it much where he actually pitches it to Tank. So that was pretty cool to see in the game.
Yeah, that is cool. That is cool. All right, so how quick did you realize that you're going to have a pretty easy walk-in touchdown to really kind of get the season going? Did you kind of know, looking at what the defense gave you, as soon as you guys broke the huddle, you're like, oh man, this is going to be an easy score?
Well, I saw that there were man on the outside guy, and there was a safety and linebacker, and they were kind of confused there when I motioned. I was like, well, this can go one of two ways. And so once I released the flat and caught it, realized that they had messed up big time. Somebody messed up. So that was that was a pretty easy one for sure.
Yeah, no, I'm sure. One of my predictions last week was that you were going to lead the team in touchdown receptions. And so as soon as you walk that one in, I'm like, all right, we're off to a good start. We're off to a good start with that prediction. So
yeah, I couldn't catch Quez, but good start.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. All right. So, as far as that rain delay, what do you guys do when you're in the huddle? I mean, I know fans are just kind of sitting around watching, probably scrolling social media or pulling up other games. What are you guys doing when you're in the locker room?
Yeah, it's really a bunch of the same stuff. I mean, there's nothing we can do. Like coaches might, we might talk a little game about some adjustments that we've seen even in the second half. But after that, because there's a few strikes, so it was delayed for about, I don't know, like an hour or something.
Yeah. Wow.
So yeah, we would lay down, take our shoes off, kind of relax. We watched the Florida game for a little bit on our phone and just kind of hang tight. And then with about 15 minutes, when there wasn't a strike, we get up and we get stretched and try to get going to go back out.
Is that hard to get back going? I know, I think it was Jalen Simpson put up a TikTok of just him like laying down in front of his locker with his pads off and things like that. Is it hard to like be relaxed and then, okay, we got to go back and play the rest of this football game?
Well, you have it in the back of your mind. Okay, I guess still got to play a game. Like stay locked in, do the best you can. So yeah, that's part of the adversity in that. And Coach Harsin was good as soon as that happened about talking about it. Like this is adversity. We need to handle it the right way and handle like pros. And that's what we try to do the best of our ability, because you don't want guys to just sit around and then not be focused on the game, because we still had over a quarter left. So you don't ever want to lose that, but at the same time, it's not, really logical to just think about ball for an hour while not playing. Like that wouldn't help us either. So it's kind of a happy medium there on what you try to do to pass that time, because you don't really know how long you're going to be in there, you know, so that can be difficult for some guys.
John Samuel, I want to get your thoughts about this team moving forward and prepping for this weekend's game. But real quick, hey, everybody, look, buying or selling your home or your second home or an investment property, it's a significant life move. So it's important to hire a professional real estate team to help you navigate the real estate market from start to finish, especially in today's market. My family and I are going through the process right now for the selling of our house, as well as purchasing a new home, and we would not have contacted anyone other than our friends at the Crawford Willis Group at eXp Realty. They are professionals, and they treat us like we're family, helping us through the real estate process and holding our hand the whole way through. I ask a ridiculous amount of questions, and they really want to educate their clients and make sure they understand everything that they're doing. So reach out to Crawford Willis Group for real estate needs by going to their website, crawfordwillisgroup.com. John Samuel Shanker, our guest. So you guys now prepping for San Jose State this Saturday. Based on what you've seen about them so far, what stands out about these guys?
They play hard. They have a little bit of a swagger to them from what we saw yesterday watching them. So it'll be a test, obviously. Every game is. But I think they're better than Mercer. I think they are a good team. So we got to come out and play. We got to be prepared throughout the week. And that's part of the grind. Is every week's different, every team's different. Mercer's in the past now. It's on to San Jose State and San Jose State only, and that was a challenge that Coach Harsh gave to us yesterday. Is just going 1-0 this week.
Is there any tendency to look ahead and think, man, Penn State the following week, that's going to be a huge nationally viewed game, or does this locker room really seem to buy into that 1-0 mentality of nope, it's all about this Saturday?
Well, I think that's part of, as leaders and captains, that's our job, is to make sure that our guys are locked in on this week and this week only. Like, yeah, you can talk about the rest of the weeks, but as long as we're focused on what we have to do this week, on the playbook this week and things like that, and be successful against San Jose State, then we're all good.
So, John Samuel, obviously going into the season, every Auburn fan had their opinion about the quarterback battle, and then I think what a lot of people saw in week one, there's still a lot of opinions, a lot of questions about, who should be leading this offense. How is this team kind of handling that? Is this still an open competition? Harsin talked about how TJ is still the starter. Is there going to be a rotation? What what should Auburn fans be kind of thinking right now?
I wouldn't look too much into it as far as who's rotating in and out. I mean, I think we knew that going into fall camp that this wasn't going to be set in stone with one guy.
Okay.
So, I just keep an open mind, don't think too much into when guys rotate and things like that, because that's going to happen. Like, this isn't set in stone. It might not be set in stone all year. It's really who's got the hot hand at the moment. And I thought Robby had the hot hand this past week, but, it might be TJ this week. So, both of those guys are going to compete. They're going to play hard. And it's just we need to keep that locker room together, and that can be hard to do when they're fighting for a big position like that. But that's part of our job, is to make sure that this doesn't separate the locker room, that brings it closer. Because we all want to do the same thing. We all want to win, and that's the biggest point to get across to everyone. Even if you're not playing, is you're here to help us win.
So when you look at other members of the offense based on what we saw against Mercer a few days ago, who in your mind stood out the most to you? I mean, I know there were some guys on the offensive line that played really, really well, as well as some receivers that kind of took advantage of some opportunities. Jarquez scored a million times. who stood out the most to you when you kind of went back and watched tape?
Well, on the offensive side, Jarquez had a great game for sure. But I think Javaris Johnson, I think he had a great game. He's a deep threat for us. And I think, he had a little issue back in May where we didn't know if he was going to be here and stuff like that. So, just him coming back and working and being ready to go, it was a testament to him and what he's done this offseason to get ready. And he can be a leader in that room if he wants to be. And I think he showed his potential this past weekend. And then defensive side, it had to be Cam Riley. I mean, that guy, he was everywhere this past Saturday.
He was.
And just a young guy like that, he's a quiet guy, just puts his head down and works. But he's a great player, and I think he showed that. And I think the sky's the limit for him.
We were talking about him on the show yesterday, Cam Riley. And there were times where it's like, I was watching, he's like, oh, he took too aggressive of an angle. And it's like, nope, he closed the gap somehow. I don't know how he's that big and be able to move that quickly, but he's impressive. He's really, really impressive, especially for a guy that really hadn't had a whole lot of starting experience. For him to kind of come in and hit the ground running, he blew me away.
Yeah, I mean, we saw that in camp and all the offseason. He got really big. I mean, he is a big dude. So whenever, we didn't expect 15, but we were not shocked whenever he started making plays like that, because he's shown that in practice and things like that. But, I think he'll continue to make strides, and he's going to be a heck of a player.
You mentioned VAR being a deep threat. When you talk about slot receivers, a lot of people think of, the Wes Welkers, Julian Edelmans, 4-yard route you to death. When you put out a guy on the field that can really stretch the field vertically in the slot, what does that allow you to do as far as other guys being around them?
Well, that just keeps, that keeps their safeties in check. That keeps them high, and that allows you to throw things under. And that can be a huge piece, because if you don't have a guy that can take it over the top, then those safeties, they're just going to sit on everything under, and the things aren't going to be as open. So that can really help an offense, because, think about a guy like Schwartz. You had those safeties so far back, just worried about him getting past you, that you left everything underneath open. So it just opens up everything underneath if you have a guy that on any given play can just run by your safeties.
I was really impressed with Austin Troxell and Tate Johnson as far as the offensive lineman goes. What'd you think about the big guys up front?
Yeah, I thought he did great. I mean, Trox has a ton of experience, so that wasn't surprising to see him, Brandon Council, those guys do well. And Tate Young, that was his first game. I thought he handled it well. There's things that we'll work on this week, but I thought he did well for his first game, and that's a lot for a guy who just got the job a few weeks ago, not knowing what was happening. So I think he's done very well. He's matured a lot in these weeks, and he'll continue to mature throughout the season as he gets more reps.
Nick Brahms was dressed as a coach on the sideline. He looked spiffy. He looked good, different than what we've kind of normally seen him, all with pads and things like that. But what's his role been like now that he's done playing football?
Well, I think it's more mentoring Tate and those guys, and seeing things on the field and helping them out on the sideline. I mean, because that guy, he knows the playbook like the back of his hand, and
Sure.
to help a guy like Tate who's young and things might be going a little fast for him at times, to have a guy like Nick to help you out is a huge asset for us, and I think he's taking that role well. He's enjoying it, and so I'm sure it'll help even more as we go down the season.
John Samuel Shanker, Auburn tight end, thank you so much for your time as always, and best of luck this Saturday when San Jose State comes into town.
Thank you, War Eagle.
That's John Samuel Shanker. Thank you so much to him, as always, for joining us for a few minutes right here on the show. We'll be back tomorrow right here on Locked On Auburn. In the meantime, you can read all of my written work at auburndaily.com or follow me on socials at Zac Blackerby. This has been Locked On Auburn.